welcome to my stamp studio. So continuing with our Party with the Puffins cards, this is the Picture This Puffin birthday card. We are going to be using the Picture This dies, and we'll be using actually the circles dies, and I'll show you that in a minute. I pulled it out of here. We'll be using our Party Puffin stamp set, our black matte dots, our Stays On ink. We'll be using our Stamp and Write markers. We'll be using some seal and some liquid glue, so let me get those two right here. Probably more so liquid glue than anything, but we'll have both there and ready to go. Let me see what else I need here. Yep, that's it for right now. Okay, so what we're going to start with in our Stamparatus. We are going to start with a piece of Whisper White. This measures 4 by 5 1/4. We have a piece of Bermuda Bay measured at 4 and 5 1/4. These are going to layer on each other to do our stamping. I have a piece of thick white cardstock measured at 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 and scored at 4 1/4. I've got a piece of Designer Series paper, which I'm actually going to cut out my Designer Series paper and my Bermuda Bay cardstock using this stitch die. So I've already done this for us. So when I use this die, I end up with some awesome circles. Now, we're not going to use the circles for this project, so you can put them aside for another project. But we will be using the 3 little circles that we get from the Designer Series paper. And put the die aside now. We are going to take our Coastal Cabana, I'm sorry, our Bermuda Bay and our white. We're going to lay them right on top of each other just like this. We're going to bring in our Stamparatus here. I'm going to lay my silicone mat here. Now, because this is a cling mount and it has the red rubber, we don't have to worry about having that mat underneath, so we can just have this. I'm going to pull in a piece of grid paper here just to give myself some backing. And now I am going to turn this sideways just so I can more easily fit my puffins in there. I'm just going to use the edge of the grid paper here to kind of line this up so I know where it's supposed to be. I'm going to now take my puffins here and I'm going to lay them where I want to have it stamped. So I want his little party hat in there. So you can see I'm just putting his party hat in. I don't have the magnets on yet because I'm not going to be stamping actually on that Bermuda Bay. I'm going to have the birthday cake right here. And I'm going to bring in the candles and put them right here. All right, so I'm going to bring in my hinge from my Stamparatus. I'm going to place that down, and it's going to lift those stamps right up, so they are going to be positioned right where I need them. And then I'm going to take the Bermuda Bay off, and I am going to bring in my magnets at this point to hold my paper down. Move it this way, and I'm just going to make sure when I close this that my magnets aren't intruding on the area that I need to stamp. I'm making sure that I have these there because when I ink these up with Stays On, if I don't get a good image, I can lift this, re-ink it, and stamp it again. So let's go ahead and get this inked up. Again, I'm using the solvent-based ink, and I'm doing that because I'm using those Stamp and Write markers. Let me just put this case underneath here to give me a level work surface. So I'm going ahead and just making sure that's all inked up. And I'm going to come down on my paper and give it a good press, just like this. And again, if my image didn't get as inked as I want, I can put more ink on it and re-ink, re-stamp. There we go. Okay, it looks like I need a little bit more right there, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more right on his head. And don't forget, he's going to be cut off part way, so I'm not really worried about the lower portion, but right here, he was missing some ink. So give it a good press. I'm going to actually cover my stamp pad and bring my Stampin' Scrub over. Okay, so I've got my Stampin' Cleaner here. I'm going to go ahead and lift this up. I'm going to take out my cardstock now. I'll leave those magnets in and far apart for later. I'm just going to bring in a scrap piece of paper here, and I'm going to stamp off a little bit. I'm going to get some of that ink off before I actually go to my cleaner with it. So we'll do this, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab a block. It's easier to clean when these are on a block. So I'll just go ahead and bring a block in here. There we go. Peel that off a little bit. All right, so let's grab him, put him on a block. I'll bring in my cleaner. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the video right now while I clean these. You know how to clean your stamps. I'll be right back. I'm going to share with you a little quick tip on cleaning with the StazOn. So if you use your regular mist, that will work fine. A lot of times you do have to use a StazOn cleaner, which Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell anymore, but you can get it at other places. But what you can do is to make sure that your stamp doesn't have any ink on it, take your stamp and take an old yellow stamp pad and go ahead and stamp it down, and you can see if there's any black on there. So you can see it came off clean. It doesn't look all that clean, but it all came clean. Right? And then I just clean that one more time after I've done that. That way I actually know that my stamp is clean. So just a quick little tip, if you're ever worried that you haven't gotten all the black ink off, that's what you can do to test it. Right. Now, let's go ahead. We're going to get to coloring here. So we're going to take our images here. We're going to bring in our markers. One other thing I'm going to stamp while I have my markers out here is I'm going to take a piece of scrap white. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp my happy birthday sentiment. And it's right here. So I'm grabbing happy birthday. Just put it right here. And I'm going to actually use my marker to stamp this. If you have a stamp pad that's granite pearl green or whatever colors that coordinate that you're working with, go ahead and use that. But I'm going to stamp this 3 times. So I've got 1, and really the reason I want to stamp this 3 times is I want happy 3 times is really all I'm looking for. So if my birthday stamps off, it's fine. 2, and I can get 1 more happy over here if I use my brush side of my stamp. And notice I'm just rubbing this along the side. If you find that it's really dry in your area, you just have to breathe on it, and that re-moistens the ink. And stamp happy 1 more time. There we go. All right. So now with these, we're going to fussy cut these out. Actually, we're not going to even fussy cut them. All we're doing right here is I'm going to actually bring my trimmer in. I kind of like how this one looks, so I'm just going to cut that straight. I could bring in a large scissors too to do it. I have my trimmer handy right here, so I'm just going to go right down here. And I know that wasn't quite in the frame, but that's okay. You know how to use your trimmer. And I'm going to make sure I'm not cutting too much of that off. There we go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish cutting these out. And so here's my first happy birthday. Oh, I don't even need that. I actually just need it to be right here, just like this. And I can trim this down. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be straight. The font is kind of crooked anyways. They're not going to all be next to each other, so you don't have to worry about having them the exact same size. So I'm just trimming it down just to be the words there, so just like that. And we've got our last happy here. And we'll get our last one. All right, so we'll get our little scraps out of the way here. We don't need any of this. We just need happy. I guess I only needed 2 happies. I was counting wrong. Okay, so next I'm going to go ahead and start coloring. So let's go ahead and bring in the daffodil. You could bring in mango if you wanted. Whatever, it's totally up to you on what colors you use. Just use your Stampin' Right markers if you're using StazOn. So I'm going to go ahead and color his beak, color his feet here. I'm going to color the flames and the candles. And this is pretty quick to do. I'm going to color even in the plate, I think. There we go. All right. What did I just do with my lid? These darn little lids roll off the table, so careful. All right, let's take our green now and let's do our little hat. You could use your Stampin' Blends, so if you use your Memento pad, you can use your blends. Now, because it's markers, you can probably get away with using your Memento and the markers. Ideally, I prefer to actually use StazOn when I'm using my markers. Less risk of that smearing. Okay, so then I have Coastal Cabana here. I'm just giving it some alternate color. All right, so now my candles. Go ahead and color my candle there. Go ahead and use this. And our cake, all I'm going to do is take my Coastal Cabana and give this some frosting. Coastal Cabana is such a happy color. I love this color. That and mango, those two colors. Oh, and I'd have to say Granny Apple Green. Those two colors just make me happy. Three colors make me happy. Because it makes me so happy, I'm going to do these in green too. All right, that's it for the coloring. Pretty quick, pretty fast. We are going to be centering this right on top. And notice some of the images still show. That's okay. We're going to be covering them up. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to put adhesive around my Bermuda Bay here. And I want to make sure I get the edges and kind of around those circles. I want to be careful I'm not getting too much because I don't want it to ooze out. And this is really important with this card. There we go. Okay, that should be enough. Make sure it didn't dry. It's really drying really fast in here today. All right, so now I'm going to flip this over. And I know that my images are in the large circles. I'm going to get my scrap piece of paper under here too while I'm at it. And I want to make sure that I have this layered on there really well so it's none of the white will be showing. So I just need to slide that around. Another reason to use your liquid glue. All right, and I'll give that a good press. If you wanted to trim your white just a shy smaller on all four sides, or you know, on two of the sides, just so it's easier to fit, you can. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take these little circles and we're going to plop them right in those holes that are there. So I am just going to take some of my liquid glue again and just put a little adhesive here, a little here, a little here, and I'm just going to drop these right in there. Doesn't matter what direction, doesn't matter what color you use, you can use whichever one you want. All right, just like that. Okay, so now the last step we have to do is we're going to put these on with dimensionals. So really what I want to do is I want to put my base on first, or attach it to my base first. You could attach it with dimensionals if you'd like. Okay, just going to set that right on there. Okay, now I'm going to take some of my mini dimensionals. If you have large dimensionals, you can use those. Just cut them in half. And I'm going to adhere my sentiment. So here's my birthday. I'll take those little tabs off. And I'm just going to put it right across that designer series paper right there, just like that. If you cut crooked, totally fine, because now no one's going to notice because these are going at angles. And like I always say, if someone points this stuff out to you, they should be making you the card. Just saying. So have some fun with it. Use whatever colors you have, whatever designer series paper you have. It works with anything. That's what's awesome about this puffin set. You can use it with any color. Because really all you're doing is stamping with black and coloring it whatever colors. You can use watercolor pencils. You can use markers, blends. Okay. So just like that. So that is our Picture This Puffin birthday card. My goodness, that's a mouthful. I'll see you again in just a little bit for the next tutorial card video in the Party with the Puffin series. Thank you. Okay, so I realized when I ended the first part of the video, I hadn't actually finished up my card. So I'm going to come back in and show you the last pieces that I did for my card. And I went ahead and I opened up my inside of my card, and I went ahead and I took the Party Puffin again, and I'm going to ink him up in the Stays On. Get him nice and inked up here. There we go. You can see he's pretty inked. And I'm just going to put him right here, right on the inside. Give it a good press, don't wiggle, and lift straight up. There we go, nice image. Okay, so now I'm just going to clean it off real quick, and then we're going to stamp a couple more things and do a little bit more coloring, and we will be done after we add our black matte dots to the front. Okay, I'm going to go ahead now and take the candles, and I'm going to stamp one right over here. And stamp another one right over here. And I think that's going to be good. So we'll just stamp that off a little bit and clean our ink pad, our ink off. Okay. And cover up our stamp pad. Let's go back to coloring this now. So I'm going to go ahead and take my Bermuda Bay marker, and I'll color the little tassel on his hat, the little dots on there. And I'm coloring the candles just a little different than I did on the outside. It doesn't really matter which way what colors you use. Just match your cardstock and your designer series paper. Okay, get my flames. We'll get my little feet here. And get the rest of the beak. I'll come back in with Coastal Cabana here. And we'll do and then with our granny apple green. Okay, so now the inside is done, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in some of the black matte dots, and I'll go ahead and just use my snips here and adhere a couple of black matte dots to the front. So I'm going to put one over here, and I'll put one up on top. And we'll put another little small one right here on the bottom. Okay, now our card is actually finished. And I'll see you in a little bit for the next video.